There are programs that are available. Make those programs workable and help those people out. But there's no reason to change the entire healthcare system, because I don't want to have the healthcare that they have in the UK. I'm 55 years old. If I live in the UK and I need dialysis, they put me on a morphine drip and let you die. Okay? They don't treat you. If you stop talking to the healthcare providers in the hospital, they withdraw all of the support for you and they let you die. Okay? This is not the healthcare that we want here.
Has given a somewhat qualified but endorsement of H.R. 3200. The American Hospital Association doing the same thing. Some people say that they're doing it because they want a seat at the table. They're afraid if they don't have a seat at the table, they'll be on the menu. But I just have to tell you that I'm concerned about all of the different entities and interests that are involved here, but I'm most concerned about people having good health care. That's my number one concern. And I think people's health concerns ought to be addressed, but I do not believe that going to a one-size-fits-all national health insurance system like the bill introduced by the chairman of my committee, the Judiciary Committee, John Conyers, who's signed here, is the way to accomplish that, because what, in my opinion, will happen is exactly what he described in most of the other developed countries of the world that have either a national health care system or a national health insurance system. It leads to a national health care system because there's only one choice, and all those choices are made by bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. about what kind of care you get and under what circumstances you get it. And because of that, and because of all the budgetary considerations, Medicare is a great thing for senior citizens to have, but it certainly doesn't cover all their needs. They have to go out and get supplemental private health insurance to cover it. And now we're talking about the fact we're going to add tens of millions of new senior citizens to that list, and yet you want to go beyond that and add everybody to the Medicare for All program. I think that there are more people in this country who want to preserve choices in terms of their For that reason, I can't support H.R. 676.
I appreciated after an hour into this, the Constitution was mentioned. Mr. Goodlatte. I'm one of your constituents who believes that our founders were not only wise, but were divinely inspired to write a Constitution. Just take a second and explain to this audience why the founders wrote a Constitution that limited the federal government.
Well, I think they did it because they were seeking freedom. When people came to this country from other countries around the world, came to this new world from different countries and formed individual colonies that eventually became states, they did it because they wanted freedom. And I think that that is the most precious thing that Americans have, is the opportunity to
I appreciated the comment. Is the health care, with regard to health care, is there any talk in Congress as to whether or not any of this is constitutional?
Absolutely there is. That's why you have support for things like the Enumerated Powers Act, which I've co-sponsored, which would require that this bill, H.R. 3200, and any other bill set forth the basis in the Constitution for the legislation.
Thank you for your stand on these issues.
Thank you. But what we really need to have, if we're going to get something done here, is for a willingness for people to sit down and talk. And unfortunately, the majority in the Congress, with the exception of that one chairman, that one committee in the Senate, has attempted to jam this through and simply do it with the support they have within their own party. This issue is too big and too important for either party to try to get this done without it being bipartisan.
So I certainly could talk for a long time about the thousands of patients that we see in the free clinics and the problems with hardworking people who can't afford health insurance, as well as a trigger option would be very valuable, wherein insurance companies are asked to get to certain benchmarks in order to, whether it's making healthcare more affordable, making it more accessible to people, eliminating the pre-existing condition clauses, but making it more realistic. I have parents in their 70s and their mid-70s who, between cancer therapies, hip replacements, some of these are still working full-time, have Medicare, have private insurance, pay a significant amount of money out of pocket for their health care. And I think those are some of the things that we need to reform. Everybody should have some access to health care and not go broke trying to afford it.
Those are good points and good suggestions, except I am not at all convinced that a trigger mechanism would say, we're going to do all of this, but we won't do it unless this, whatever it is that the government decides ahead of time happens or doesn't happen, would trigger it. There's just too many problems with this for me to say, okay, we'll do this, but with some kind of a delaying mechanism that says it won't happen except under certain circumstances. There's better ways to do it from the start. But in terms of trying to make catastrophic care available to people, I think that that's well worth doing, because it's better that they get that than going to the hospital emergency room like they do today. We'll take this lady right here.
My question to you is, how do we stop all of this indoctrination? How do we get our rights back to be able to mention Jesus Christ in schools? We can mention everything else.
Well, first of all, for those who utilize homeschooling, I'm a strong supporter of people's right to make that determination. And believe that if people choose to educate their children at home, they should have the opportunity to do that. My children were educated in the public schools, and they've done very well, and I'm pleased with the public school system. But I will say this, that religious freedom is something that we do not protect enough in this country. We have in our First Amendment to our Constitution 2 clauses. One that says Congress shall make no laws respecting an establishment of religion, which I think the Founding Fathers meant that you weren't going to have, like many of the countries that people fled from, an official church, a governmental sanctioned official church like the Church of England was. And it also has a clause that says, nor restricting the free exercise thereof. And today, government is so pervasive in so many aspects of our lives, not just public schools, but in a whole host of other ways. Being able to freely express your religious beliefs in public schools, I think, is an important thing. And I think that there's a lot of misinterpretation, some bad Supreme Court decisions, but also some groups out there who attempt to intimidate school boards and school districts, saying, you can't do this or you can't do that because it violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment, completely at the expense of the Free Exercise Clause. And I think we should be standing very, very strongly for that. And I would like to see justices on our Supreme Court and our lower courts who respect the entire meaning of that First Amendment to the Constitution, not simply the interpretation that says that we can use that Establishment Clause to expunge all meaning and reference to religion in our public schools and other public places. I think that's wrong, and I disagree with you.